So we have a really excellent panel this morning on an incredibly important subject when it comes to, for those of you, how many of you are students? Okay, good. For those of you who are students, an incredibly important piece of what your world is, which is how do you ultimately take what you're learning in all of our programs and translate that into, connecting into the industry. And for those of you in industry, how do you connect into the most incredibly valuable resource, which is all of this young, passionate blood that wants to get into this great industry that we're all part of. So a very important and always timely discussion. We have a great panel, and I just want to let each of our panelists to give a minute or so and introduce themselves so you have some context as to who everybody is. So we'll start with Andrew.
My name is Andrew Couch. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Big Machine Label Group. I started my career as an intern. Actually, in the previous life I was in the studio industry, so well aware of internships, and that's how I got my start. And was able to work at one of the largest recording studios in the Southeast for probably about 17 years. And now I've moved on to my second job at the label level and deal with a lot of our internship and HR as part of my overall duties. So on a day-to-day basis, it's a really important part of what I do.
I'm louder than everybody else today.
You're just very close to the mic.
Okay, I'll back up this time.
It's all good.
Hi, I'm Chris Marniago. I'm the Director of A&R Research at Atlantic Records. I'm one of three. I'm the Nashville guy, got a New York guy and an LA guy, and London, I suppose. But I handle a lot of the data as it pertains to new signings and acquisition of new talent and the development of new talent on the label, as well as A&R coordinator responsibilities. So I started as an intern at the label and moved up from there. Started working at school as an intern and then slowly moved my way to where I'm at now.
Great, thanks.
What school did you go to?
Full Sail.
Hi, I'm Jason Ross. I own TSM Studio. I also went to Full Sail. And I did not know this about these guys. I don't know how weird this is. I also interned to get to where I'm at, and I did not know that these guys did that too. That's great. Basically, I went to Full Sail back in 2002. As soon as I worked at a studio while I went to school there, and when I graduated, I got hired there. A couple months after that, I started at TSM, and now we are 12 years old, and we have an operation down in Orlando.
Hi, good morning again. My name is Elizabeth Neff. I teach music business marketing at Full Sail University, so there is a theme here. And we work with Drew. In addition to teaching at Full Sail, I also own my own PR company called Buzz Entertainment Public Relations. I've been doing both strategically teaching and owning my own business for the past 9 years. In addition to that, for 20 years total, I've been working in the industry in marketing and communications. So honored to be here.
Great, thank you. I'm Rob Wazer. I did not go to Full Sail, but I've spent the last 20 plus years in the music industry in various roles. My latest is I've run the North American business for a digital supply chain company that services the global independent music community called Consolidated Independent. And for the last 3 years, I've been part of the full-time faculty at Drexel University's music industry program. So that's why I'm sitting up here on this panel as well. So one of the themes that we've already heard is the importance of internships as an entry point. And I think that in our prep call, Andrew, you talked about a very developed and important program that you've instituted at Big Machine. Could you give a little overview of what that program is and how it came about, why you view it as important?
Sure. Well, I came out of the studio industry where the apprenticeship and the internship programs were really important. It was kind of how you got your start and how you learned the craft. And when I got into the label side, I realized that it was looked at more as, unfortunately, a little bit of just kind of a free labor approach, and people coming and spending a period of time and not really walking away with maybe all of of the aspects of the label, more so just the department they did. So about 2 years ago, we kind of turned our internship program on its ear, and we changed the name. We called it the Accelerator Program, and we actually created and defined positions with each department and turned them into paid positions, which was a huge help, because at that point we didn't really have to worry about asking them to go get coffee or things. I mean, the true sense of an internship is it has to be, or a non-paid is it has to be an inconvenience to the employee or to the employer, and a learning process to the intern. And so creating it as a paid program, and then just opening it up nationally. We also pulled from a few organizations, we had some great local colleges as well as Full Sail, and a couple others that we had pulled from, but we opened it up nationally and really put the word out there. And lo and behold, here we are 2 years later, and for our summer sessions, which are our biggest sessions, we have about 12 to 15 slots open, and we usually haul it down from about 500 applicants. And it's been hugely helpful for us, because to really use that process and push our team to identify the top 12 candidates out of 500, so that we have the cream of the crop as our employees as part of our business. And it really brings kind of a new sense, and the turnover is also something that most corporations and most companies steer away from, is that they like to hire and they keep that. The internship program is actually just a part-time, very defined position, but the turnover is great, because you get every year or every semester you get a new sense of what's going on, and especially their affinity to technology and a lot of things. And I think one of the things that has become very evident is that when we interface with internship programs and different students, it's their need for kind of real life experience to understand how to apply their education. So often when kind of left to themselves, there's so many assumptions. You think you can Google everything, and you can't. I mean, there really is some basic concepts and premises that you can only get by experiencing it and failing. And I think that's the one interesting thing about Big Machine, anyways, is that we are very proactive in trying to fail faster. So we try things. We always ask the question, why do you do this? I mean, and when we started the company, we didn't know how to run a record company. We knew how to do promotion, and I knew how to do back office, and we learned the rest. And so after 10 years of really kind of making a lot of mistakes, that's kind of honed us, and so we can help those kids go through that program and teach them the mistakes that we made, so that they can really be guided and be a lot more focused in their efforts.
That's great. I mean, embracing that notion of a willingness to fail, or creating an environment where failure, not that we're striving to fail, but we learn in science. But we want to learn from failure. And one of the things that the academic environment allows for, and that, I mean, we stress, and Elizabeth, I'd love to hear your thoughts, we stress it at Drexel, is we have a record label, a publishing company, a management incubator. We have real businesses where the students can run them. You learn it's not just about Googling, it's about getting your hands dirty. One of the things that is important about, and I'm sure all of you know this as students, so that the music industry is not a textbook industry. You don't learn how to be in the music business from a textbook. You don't learn how to be in the music business and operate in the music business in a classroom. You learn by getting your hands dirty. So those kind of programs are incredibly important, and it's great that you're doing that, and it should be. I guess a follow-up question I have is, why do you think, and I know you can't speak for the rest of the industry, but why do you think that those kind of programs are less pervasive? I mean, how can we kind of use a Big Machine as a case study to bring that out to the industry as a way of creating these kind of deep learning experiences with practical application?
I think it has to be intentional as a company. You have to really approach it, and you have to apply the resources. I mean, we've spent the money and the time and the effort, but when we look down at it and we have 12 employees, and dare I say it, at starting level salary, at entry level salaries, it allowed us to then really assign duties to those and really have someone as an oversight position. And you have to dedicate the resources to that. You also have to dedicate the resources to calling down that 500, and you have to have a process to it. And I met a recruiter a while back who we use for our IT, and she was an IT recruiter and really had a very specific way that they would go after engineers, and they would do a personality test, and they would do interviews, and they would do things, and everything was a test. It was, if you have a 10 o'clock call, were you ready at 10 o'clock, or were you ready at 9:52 or 9:58, and she would write all these things down and keep track of all of those things, as well as the personality test, and pull everything together, and then have a really great profile of this person. And we do that to every single intern. So it's almost like a true HR approach. And the reason that we do that is that, we looked down at one point in our company, and a third of our employees came through our internship program. And so it's really an important way for us to get to know these employees. When you hire a new employee, you don't know anything about them.
Right.
But an internship program gives you a whole semester to get to understand their characteristics without a buy option at the end. You walk into it with a real understanding that at the end of the semester, you've walked away with an education. We've gotten this, but it's interesting to find the ones that really find their own lane and really create their own lane. And when they do that, that's an employee that we want. And so it really has helped our HR process immensely. So it was very intentional.
Right, and that sort of that kind of allocation of resource, I think, is rare. But you see the huge payoff that you've got. I mean, you said a third of your team is coming from your intern.
Absolutely.
So that's Elizabeth. To anchor this kind of bookend this. So coming from the academic world, what's the wholesale perspective on internships? How much of a part ingrained within the structure of your process are internships?
Yeah, at Full Sail, we're all about real-world education, and so for us, it is more not just the academic in the classroom, but it's hands-on in the classroom and creating opportunities for students that are real-world scenarios. I think something we've launched in the last couple of years is a new artist development initiative. Instead of the last session was about student-run record labels, we felt like how the industry was changing and record labels were evolving, that we didn't want to start a record label. We wanted to start an artist development company and give the opportunities to students to get a real-world knowledge and do it from all process of the record or of the music business model, from A&R and trying to identify an artist and then pitching that artist and then developing that artist, creating music videos, creating merch. One of the, if you see the prescription bottle on the table, that's right here, is one of the pieces that the students came up with in promoting one of our 3,300 and climbing artists, and that's the Artist Development Initiative. So we provide all these opportunities for students to do not only from the A&R to managing events, to managing their social media and helping promotion, from digital promotion and real-world promotion, street team, etc., to being, behind the scenes on creating a music video and the treatment for the music video, and then being an extra in the music video, to helping in recording sessions and putting on a concert. So we try to do all elements of what you would actually happen to do working with an artist. Behind the scenes, from artist management to tour management, etc. But it really is up to the students to take advantage of those opportunities that are presented to them as well. But for us as an institution, it's very much real-world education, and we love partnering with labels and different type of companies that give them those opportunities to make that part of their learning experience and add that to their resume.
So, Chris, you as a student at Full Sail, that you interned, and will you give us a little insight about what that process was and how that sort of connected you to industry?
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off of what Enif was saying was, the opportunity that the school presented, like 2 months into the program, there was a guy, Steve Robertson from Atlantic, who's the SVP of A&R, now a close friend, mentor, and boss at Atlantic, was living in Orlando at the time and was like, I want to come into school and give the students an opportunity to pitch songs and pitch artists like they would at a record label. And in that process, maybe he would find his next intern, or he'd find the next great band, because all the kids were from everywhere at Full Sail. And so I was in that opportunity. A teacher had picked me for that, and then that turned into just a relationship with Steve-O, talking about music, and opened that door. And then it was up to me to really kind of pursue that opportunity. And it started by, I was working out of his office once a month and once a week, and then I was there until I got kicked out every day. So, and I think that's what ultimately led to me working for the label, and my obsession with organization and just spreadsheets in general got me the research gigs. So it's just kind of showing off my strengths and also learning where I was weak in that process that I think both the school and the company saw. So.
Yeah, and Chris is the perfect example of a student that, as a university, you're provided, if you're a student or from an academic situation, you provide an opportunity for them as a course, right, here's this opportunity to meet with this industry professional. And it's this one shot opportunity. That's all you have, is that one shot. And that's all we give you. But then it's up to the student and the individual to then be persistent and create opportunities of themselves. And that's what he did. It's like, he could have just gone that 1 month and met Steve-O and that was it. But no, he continued to keep creating opportunities to get in front of that industry professional because it was something that he was passionate about. And that's just something that's, that we all should do. And this is, at the Music Biz Conference, was a perfect opportunity to do that, right? You're in front of all these different people. It's up to you to continue to create those opportunities for yourself.
Yeah, the biggest thing, I think, is just don't look at it as you need somebody to give you the opportunity. It's rather find ways to take advantage of every opportunity that you currently have in front of you. Just because you're in school doesn't mean you can't work, and just because, but what I mean by that is, like, obviously a full-time job depending on your schedule is difficult, but I mean, there are choices you make. The choice you make to hang out for the day is a choice that you didn't make to find the next great artist, or like work on a tour, or do any of that stuff and better yourself as a professional. And now at this stage, when you're in school and when you're just about to graduate, or when you just graduated, those are the times where you're supposed to make your mistakes and learn what your strengths and weaknesses are.
I think also, thematically, this panel is about trying to identify best practices and connecting it. And so far, two of the best practices I've heard so far from the industry side is to create programs intentionally and allocate resources around them so that they are important to the company and that you take them seriously. So from the industry perspective, a best practice is be serious about your internship program and think about it and be intentional about it. And the other thing I'm hearing, and this you probably all as students and all of us have heard, be proactive on the students. So be proactive about how you pursue, from the academic side, your connection and bridging into the industry piece. You have to be proactive. You have to be persistent. You have to be willing to I call it I think the 4 P. I don't know how many P's I have. It's you have to be willing to perspire. You have to be persistent in that perspiration process, and you have to be incredibly passionate about the business. And if you have combined all those elements with passion, perspiration, and persistence, that'll help you out. So, Jason, what was your story? I mean, you were at Full Sail too as a student, and then you sort of made the transition into the industry space.
I have a very, I don't know the word I want to say here, a very big perspective on how I feel about internships. Because I definitely got to my level because of an internship. I actually was talking, there's somebody out in the audience who's doing podcasts, and I told him yesterday, I said, my first month of Full Sail, I called a studio and I told him I wanted to work there. And he said, "Well, did you just graduate?" I said, "No, I actually just started there." And the guy was like, "Well, you won't know anything." And I told him, I said, I don't care. I'll just clean. I'll do whatever. And I told them yesterday in the radio show that he said no. I called back the next week. And that week I told the guy, I would clean the toilets with my bare hands. He just let me just do construction. I didn't care. Nope. So I called back the week after that, and I actually I did not say it that way. I said it the way that you found minds would think. The next week I called back and I said, it's me again. And he was like, all right, man, that guy lost his job to me after I graduated. We're still friends though, because I went in there and I had passion, persistence, everything that you guys said, I agree. The biggest problem I see with students when they do internships is if you went to his label and you could state specific things about his label, why you wanted to work there, do you think that would be something that he would want to hear? Somebody sends me an email and says, hey, I want to intern at your studio. I said, great, what do you think is one of the coolest things we've ever done? So to put it into perspective, there's two ways that internships, you got to go in, you got to leave your ego at the door, expect nothing, make yourself a presence to be dealt with, but know that what you want to get out of it. Because most people I see at internships come in and I don't know what to do. Well, I've got a business to run, so I don't really want to tell you what to do, but if I come in and you're doing something, it's like, well, that's really impressive, and that's a way to make an impression. And my last final thought on that is, and I'm going to make her feel really weird, the girl in the back with the camera, right? She came in as part of the program that they're discussing. It's called 3300. She came in as a part of that to our studio. And one of the students in that, we were doing a recording session for their artist, walked out of the room and left the door to our studio room open. She looked at the door, looked at me, nodded at me, and went and shut the door. That was it. I said, when we're done with the session, stick around. She's now worked with us for about 3 or 4 months. She's made money. She's gone. She's sat in sessions. And now she's here in Nashville hanging out and checking it out. It was that simple. And there were 40 other people in that meeting who said nothing to us, never asked us really anything, came in and sat in the room. You know, don't interrupt the sessions. Don't interrupt wherever you're going to intern. If you're going to intern, don't go interrupting. But don't leave without saying anything. I mean, you know, it's like I was really couldn't believe that everybody that came there that day just kind of like sat in and then they left. Like, okay, well, no one asked about the studio. No one asked about coming back. No one anything. And one little thing that she did got her involved in a bunch of things. And that's the thing about internships is they should teach studio etiquette and they should teach internship like 101, because it's not about coming in and forcing yourself into the room or sitting around. It's exactly what all of us did. You know, we showed that we wanted that job. We kept our mouths shut when we were supposed to. We talked when we were supposed to. And when somebody asked me to go get them a coffee with 4 Irish creams, 2 caramel creams at 3 in the morning, I went and did it with a smile and came back. And then later down the road, you gain that respect from people. They know that you're going to work harder, and you let everyone else there know that. So, you know, internships is a kind of a thing for me, because I just see people just taking the advantage of like, oh, I got an internship, and then they go, and then when they aren't being told to do, they're sitting in a chair. It's like, hey, come out and say, hey, I fixed this for you. I did this for you. I noticed that this was bad, so I went and did this. You know, you gotta stand out. You're in an industry with a lot of people that want your job or the job that you're going to try to go get. So what are you going to do to be different?
And but how did you get to where you are? I mean, was it?
So I started working. It's funny because he knows Steve-O, and actually we were all talking about this. He worked with Paramore, and Paramore was actually recording at the studio that I was interning at the time when I was an intern. The girl was 16, short, redheaded little girl. So there was this buzz about her, which is it's cool that they became such a big band. But I worked. I literally didn't say. And one thing I tell you about, I know you guys don't all go to Full Sail, but the people that do, one great thing about Full Sail is it really teaches you how to live without a lot of sleep. You have a class at 1 in the morning to 5 a.m. and then 5 to 9 you sleep, and 9 to 1 you have another class. And so, I lived really poor. I lived off the money that they gave me, and so instead of getting a job or hanging out, I went to school and I went to the studio, and then I graduated in November 1st, got hired at the studio, and then I quit on March 8th to start my company. because it's just a matter of, if you have a vision and a passion, you got to follow it, you got to do it. And I worked all that time to get that job, but they didn't want to grow the way I wanted to grow. So I stayed really good with them. We used them. We stayed as a good resource, people that worked there, and so just growing my network and my resources is a big thing. I mean, pick a city that you want to live in and build there. Where I live, I've got a lot of respect, a lot of connections there. But if I were to move, let's say here tomorrow, I'd still have those people to call, but I wouldn't have anything here compared to what I've built there. So, I think that's a big thing for you guys too, is wherever you're feeling like, and just do it, because I can't speak for all of you, but if you're poor right now, right, or you're not wealthy, and you start to build something, it's really difficult to go back to that stage, right? Like, I could not live like I lived when I started this, but when I started it, I didn't really have anything. I had a wrecked Corolla. I lived in a house with a couple people I rented. I had almost nothing to lose, and I think that's one of the biggest things. If you have a dream that you guys want to do, and you're not in a spot where, you're like, well, I don't really have that much to lose, go do it, because when you do have that much to lose, or children, or wives and husbands and nice stuff, it's a lot different to say, well, I'm going to throw all that away and attempt to go for my dreams. Like, just, if you want to do it, go do it, because you don't want to look back and go, well, this is a bummer. Now it's 20 years later, and I didn't do what I wanted. So, for me, it was just, I just went for it. I worked all that time, got that that internship led to a job, and I kind of gave it up after 5 months, because I was like, they're not going to go as hard as I want to go, and so I had to do that. That's how.
I want to step back a second now and say, so, we're talking about passion, persistence, proactiveness. You mentioned, I think, another key, preparation. Know about Big Machine before you're, know what it is, know about your studio, be prepared. But, so to speak about the preparation piece, I mean, again, for all of you students, I mean, when I was looking at the music industry, I was wanted to be in the music industry from, I was 10 or 11 years old, and by 13 I had a management company. I mean, I was going to be in the music industry, but there were no music industry programs that existed. My school probably was the School of Hard Knocks, and that's a great school to go to. But these programs that exist now are sort of they're steamrollers that pave that road a little bit and make the knocks a little bit less bumpy. But still, it's about getting knocked about, failing, and doing that. So I guess a general question to the panel I have is, how important do you think the emergence of all of these music industry programs, where there's more popping up every year, and particularly given the context of what the headlines have been about the music industry over the last decade and a half, given the preponderance of music industry programs that are academic in nature, how important are they in preparing students for the industry, or should you not be a student? I mean, I want to ask a controversial question, I guess, in the educators meetup. Are music industry programs a waste of time?
I'll answer that. I mean, at least from my perspective, I absolutely think they're important. I think that the amazing thing is how much they've grown. When I started, there was a recording engineering program and a commercial music program. That was the perception of the music industry. And now, my alma mater is Belmont, and when I go back and I see all the various courses that they're offering, and then the artist development piece and all of these things, they're teaching all of those, a wide range of skills that were only available if you were in the label section or in the publishing and there's so many things that you can learn in some of these programs, so that you can kind of figure out what you want to do, which I think was really amazing. I mean, it took me a while to figure out I didn't want to be a recording engineer. It was actually probably 3 sessions in, I was like, you know what? I don't want to hear this song again. I thought I would like this, but I don't. This person is singing flat. It's horrible. And it was my first overnight job, was doing vocal comps. And it was terrible. I mean, it was horrible. So anyways, and I didn't even realize at that time that there was a management management, there was publishing, there was, all of these other pieces. I mean, I didn't know that there was a recording engineering program until I came down just by a fluke to Belmont with a friend to see the program. I walked in and I always did sound and dances, and I had all the sound system and stuff, and electronics were just easy for me. It's kind of like, it just came. And so I walk in and I see this console, and they're like, we have a program where you can do this for a living. I'm like, seriously? People do this for a living? And I was like, awesome, let's try this. And so but to be able to realize that there's so many other aspects of it, songwriting. I mean, there's amazing parts of our industry. So I think the programs are really important. It's just to have that wider scope to really understand and to use that. I think that's a key part of our program, is to make sure that when an intern's there, they are introduced to every single part of every silo of the industry and every department, and they really understand. And we actually, and I failed to say it earlier, is that we modeled. I went through leadership music, and there was a production day, a record day, a artist day, and there was all these various days, and so we modeled our program like that. So throughout the semester, we have these specific days where they'll sit down with the A&R team, they'll sit down with the SMI team, they'll sit down with a promotions team, and they'll learn about what they do. And then we have them do a presentation. We force them to work together and to collaborate and to come up with an idea. And after they've been in our company for probably about 2 or 3 weeks, to say, look around and see how could you fix something? What could you do? What do you see as what a curiosity? What could you do to help this company do better? And then we have them do a presentation at the end of the year. They get into groups and they give us, our entire staff, a presentation of, hey, we think we want to start a micro festival. And I think next year it's become such a great thing that next year we're going to say, not only do the presentation, but do the business plan. So how do we as a company, if we go, that's a great idea, we want to apply resources to it, we can do that. So.
That's great. That's great. What do you think, Chris?
I think that it is important to have these programs at the school, and I think it's even more important listening to a lot of the programs, because my internship was a lot different. I was at a company of technically one person in Florida. We didn't have like an HR staff like on site or like anybody doing these sorts of things. So my experience was a little different, but I think that experience, I think companies having those sort of initiatives are incredibly important. And then I think as far as school goes, I mean, they're going to expose you to so many things, and it's an opportunity to find out what you don't like more importantly than what you want to do, because it's kind of like a process of elimination. And I can only really speak from my own personal experience, but like I was, it's like, oh, maybe I want to be an agent or something, and I booked a tour, but I went on that tour, and I was just like, I don't want to do tour management, I don't want to be a booking agent, I don't want to deal with that, like especially trying to get money from the venue at the end of the night. I don't want to do it.
That's always very important.
And then it's just, I tried a bunch of things, but while you're in school, I keep reiterating, it's like find ways to apply what you're doing in class and do it outside of it, because some companies aren't going to have as great of an initiative, and hopefully in the future, like all of these companies, ideally would have something like this. But the reality is that, and why we're having this discussion, is to urge companies that are here to have those initiatives, and for students to take advantage of opportunities that might not be there and demand these sorts of initiatives.
There's another piece that Andrew, you mentioned business plan. So one of the things just to toot our horn at Drexel a little bit that we do is there's a big initiative around entrepreneurship. And we have our entrepreneurship and e-commerce classes, and I have to teach those, and as part of those classes, all the students have to, which is not necessarily the way ideas come about, but all the students have to come up with an idea. They're put into teams, and they have to come up with ideas that are specifically music industry related ideas. Again, like I say, forced creation of entrepreneurial ideas is not ideal, but we've actually had some great ideas and companies that have come out of those, that have gotten funding, have won significant money in various competitions, and the students have gone on to start to develop those companies after graduation. So it's a way of you taking that next step and having the students prepare business plans, but the programs themselves actually encouraging, because the music industry of today and tomorrow is very much about being entrepreneurial. It's very much about being nimble, seizing opportunity, executing on those opportunities, and doing it. And so, thinking entrepreneurial, being entrepreneurial, coming up with a way for you all to connect with industry is by creating the very businesses that companies like Andrew need and require.
And I think the key thing is the execution piece of it. I mean, we all have wonderful, amazing ideas, but if it never gets executed, it's just that, just an idea. And to your point, I was the one-man HR for the company. I did IT, HR, accounting, all of it, back office. So eventually we were able to hire people, and Wayne Milligan back there who came in and took a bunch of the accounting and the royalties off me a long time ago as well. So, but it's we just now, about 6 months ago, hired an HR person to help. So it can be done. It just has to be intentional. You don't have to have a huge team to do it. It's actually an amazing resource, and the energy that comes from the students and their curiosity. I think that's the thing. As an individual, I'm a curious individual. I don't watch TV. I don't do all these other things. I spend my time researching things and trying to figure out how stuff works. And I really gravitate to kids like that just have a passion and want to know more and to figure out a better way to do things.
So what do you think? I mean, I asked about, our programs, right? Part of what we do for a living. Saying, what do you think about the importance of the program? How do they fit into the industry?
Yeah, I feel like, I was going to jokingly say, I feel like they should go away. No, but I'm kidding. I feel like they give students the opportunity. I feel like it's like a playground for students to be able to fail and learn best practices and create these opportunities that, I keep using the word opportunities, but I feel like it is, to create these opportunities for themselves to learn that real world scenarios and best practices that can help them land the job. And so, it's up to us as educators to provide those industry connections, and then give the students the opportunities to write a business plan. In our program at Full Sail, one of the things that they do, in addition to the Artist Development Initiative, they do, their final project is creating a pitch, finding a problem or a need in an existing company, and then creating a whole, pitch and proposal that they can make to that company on what they need to do. And we did that with Big Machine, and that's kind of one of the things that kind of started our working relationship. And it was great. And one of the girls up on there then was an intern and got hired at Big Machine as well. So it's like, having those opportunities that otherwise students, unless they were at an internship, wouldn't get. So like the education and academia aspect is so important because it allows the students to learn on the job, but in a safe environment. So it's okay for the students to fail because their job isn't dependent on it. This is about learning and having meeting those challenges and learning how to overcome them.
It's interesting too, because it's again from this best practices framework that the panel is based on. Sort of the partnership you have with Big Machine, that kind of relationship is very important. We have one with a local company called Fame House in Philadelphia. They're a great digital marketing agency. They probably 30% of their staff, if not more, are much like yours, are Drexel students, and we set up a variety of partnerships with them. Our e-commerce class, they come in with various, last year, for example, they were taking on Ice Cube, and they came with some very specific questions for the class. How can we reinvent Ice Cube? What's important? What do we need to do? We broke out into 6 teams. They had a day to come up with some of their pitches, and then the folks from Fame House came in and sat there and listened to the pitches, and a lot of those ideas were actually incorporated into what they did when they actually did launch and not rebrand Ice Cube, but reposition or reintroduce Ice Cube into the marketplace. So those are real world opportunities. And so from a best practices perspective, our programs in the academic side are best served by partnering with leading companies in the industry side to create opportunities for you all to actually, take the learning, take the lab, and bring it into the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's so many, but when you said that, Pink Sneakers Productions is one of the leading companies that does a lot of reality TV shows, and they happen to be based in Orlando. And that's the same thing, like our students have an opportunity to create a reality show pitch and pitch it to the actual Pink Sneakers. Just like when Steve-O was coming to campus, again, they were able to pitch their actual artists that they were able to find and pitch that to Steve-O, to actual, A&R research. So yeah, I feel it is definitely, it's the responsibility of the academic institutions and the music business program specifically to be able to create those links to the industry and use those relationships to provide those distribution channels and opportunities for the students to get face-to-face with those industry professionals, but ultimately then up to the students to take it to that next level and make it work for them.
Well, for sure. I mean, the students have to take that step. So I want to talk about, so Chris, I mean, from a pay it forward perspective, so, the internship that you did with Steve-O and you got, year 1 of 3 doing, annual research for Atlantic, how do you pay that forward back into Full Sail, where that opportunity sort of came back? Are you thinking about ways to formalize a relationship? I mean, a question for the educators in the room is, how can our success stories yield more success for our programs and creating those bridges back into industry? And how do we maintain relationships with successful alumni that have, taken full advantage of the opportunity?
I think one is identifying what are those successes, and then even the initiatives that aren't successful, and being able to kind of like tweak things as you go from that side as a student looking at the institution. And then as far as my responsibility, it's just kind of to share, there's more than one way of doing things. I'm going to share the way that it kind of works for me, and just open myself up to the students. I have conversations. I go to coffee shops with students on a regular basis. I probably had coffee with like 2 or 3 people in this room. I've gone back to the school multiple times to speak, not to be like, look at me and how big and successful I am. I have so much to learn, and I'm so, the thing that I have to acknowledge about where I am is that I'm not too far removed from being a student. I graduated in 2013. So, in late 2013 at that, so it's been a little over 2 years.
Yep.
And it's for students to see that it is possible to get into a career, and then how that is it's going to be about tweaking what they're currently doing and the mentality that they have, that they can't work while they're in school, or they can't do this, or that they can't do that, and try to figure out a game plan. It's going to be as individual as the people that come with their problems. So that's the way that I give back, is just, let them know I'm still learning, and that it's okay to keep doing that. I think we can all say that. So it's just growth. I don't know if that answers the question fully.
No, it does in a way. I mean, I guess the question, there's definitely that part. As an individual, how do you give back, for sure, and share your experience, your wisdom, your success with the students, so that kind of case is inspiration and a roadmap for others. That's one piece.
And then Jason, who is in a different situation, owns his own company, right? So I know you definitely have given back to the school.
Yeah, I've gone out there and done a bunch of classes where they'll pitch, like how they did for his record label, or they speak to the kids about what they want to do, and then let them come by. Like when they had the 3300, they had the artist development. Let them use our studio. I actually even had my team do the recording and the mixing with them and production stuff. So I'm on the PAC board too, and I wanted to touch back on this real quick because I didn't get a chance to say anything about that. The entrepreneur stuff we were talking about. Education, absolutely supremely important. In this business, what's really weird about it is it's a very creative business, and there's over my time I've realized there's a lot of people are like analytical or they're creative. It's very there's rare to find the one that's both, but it's a lot of times you find somebody who's really creative but they don't really like school that much, or somebody who really loves school but they can't really come up with things. And I think what's important about this industry is from the academic perspective is you're learning the base on what like you said, what's all out there, and the base on how to learn those things, but you're also meeting a huge team of people. Every time I go to California for work, somebody that I went to school with is who I stay with when I'm out there. So, it's important you're learning the beginnings of the different, what do you want to be? You want to do arts management. Like you said about engineering, I mean, totally the same way. I went there to engineer. After a little while, I'm like, when I was making music at my house and doing that was a lot of fun, but doing this full time all the time, it's not maybe what I really wanted to do. But if I wouldn't have gone to school and learned and then done that also professionally, I would have realized I really want to focus more on the business side of it. So just that's what I'd like to say about the education. It's most certainly important. But meeting people, getting out there and practical. You're not going to come out of school and just I met people who went to school for recording and came out and said, I'm an engineer. It's like, you're not an engineer for a long time. That's not something that just happens. But then to give back to the students, it's difficult because I love to help the students. I love to teach. I've gone up a couple of times. There's a few people in the class that have been in sessions at Full Sail I got to go speak to, and I'll stand around and talk to them. I'll let them, if they're local, they can come in and I'll sit down with them. To me, giving information to someone is free. That helps them out because ultimately you're building additional allies. I mean, you never know who someone is. You never know. I mean, somebody in this room could be a connection that could grow everything you're trying to do. But it's difficult on a like, how do we do this and make it happen in every scenario? So what I could give back to Full Sail for what they've done to me is different than what he could do because of, I've got, he's working at a specific place and they've got this goal and we have this facility and our goal's it's a little bit easier to come in and sit down and talk to us, whereas, Atlantic, that's a little bit of a different vibe. So I think ultimately if it's up to the individuals that go there and then do something successful, it's kind of on us to try to give back, like, going and having coffees or going to the school or, sitting on the board and promoting, here's how these students could learn a lot better. I think it's just up to us, and as people that are doing well, we should be trying to advocate that to the other people that are doing well. Like, what are you doing to give back? If you're wealthy, you donate money to charities. Well, if we're doing well in our industry, how can we help everyone that's trying to come up? How do we help them? And I think that's something that it falls on us.
I think there's also the misconception that giving back is all money. I mean, your time. So I get so busy with everything and trying to keep up with everything, but the reality is that I'm not that busy. And I think in our industry there's a lot of egos, and I'm just not that important. So I can take time and give back because there were people that gave me the opportunity and gave me the chance, and I think that's something that really needs to be. That's part of it. Giving back. I love going and talking to the students and spending an hour or 2 hours just trying to guide the direction. I use one example. I've got a really good friend of mine who has been I've known for a long time, and he actually was an intern at the studio way back when. And one day when I had gone upstairs and I was doing the administrative stuff, he came in. He said, "What are you working on?" I said, "Well, I'm paying bills and sending out invoices. If I don't send this invoice out, the record company's not going to pay us, and I need to make sure it's all right. It's got all the song titles on it." And he started kind of looking at it and goes, I can help you with this. And he changed his internship from doing that to kind of helping me with some of the office stuff. And he came back and he was later in life, and I saw him, and he was the CFO of a record company. And I was like, well, he goes, yeah, you made me change my mind that I didn't want to do engineering, I want to do this. And so you never know what influence you'll have on somebody just simply by showing them another path or having a conversation.
And it's really important because the industry has not necessarily been an open industry. It's not been an industry that's encouraged people. It's been a very closed and jealous business. And that needs to change. And so this kind of thinking of giving back, of sharing the time, it's very
confidence in your abilities. If you're confident in your ability, nobody's going to take your job.
Right.
I mean, and there's too many people that are really worried about their abilities or have, and that's kind of an ego. It is an egocentric business.
Well, it is. It definitely is.
I wanted to add just something too, just real quick about you brought up the education and entrepreneurial stuff. I think it's really important if you guys as students to try to figure out that in the beginning. Like, do you want to start your own business or do you want to work for somebody? Because that is absolutely, every time I go to Full Sail and I speak to students and we start talking, that's the first question I ask them. I think Mick right here in the front, I spoke with him via the internet when I was there. And I think that's always the first thing I say. So do you want to own your own business or do you want to get a job somewhere? And a lot of times you're like, well, I don't know. It's like, we should know that for sure, because how you learn and what you do, internships, learning anything, should be different for those two things. You know what I mean? Like, I own a business. This is different than working for somebody. It's like working for a lot of people. It's a never-ending thing. You work somewhere, you might work 9 to 5, and maybe that's what you want in life. And so you should determine those things first, because that's going to definitely, direct your path.
I mean, one thing on that, I would say to Chris's point about these programs, and Andrew's point too, that these programs provide you with a process of omission, a process of elimination, finding out the things you don't want to do. It's perhaps through these programs you go think that I want to go work for somebody else, and you go do that as an intern, and you find out, I'm not going to do that. You quit 4 months into and you're like, I'm going to start my own business.
Yeah.
So it's using this time to answer that question. You might not know that as a freshman, but maybe as a junior or a senior, you have a clearer conception of, I am going to start a business, and I'm going to use all of this experience of the last 2-3 years I've gained to kind of inform how I'm going to go about it.
And I think too, to that point, it's a lot different now. Even I graduated in 2003. I mean, just technology. I had a sidekick that could barely get on the internet. And now I have an iPhone where, it's what can't you do with your phone or your computer? So, the thing is business is the face of entrepreneurship. The business has changed tons over the years just because, I didn't have Google to look up every answer back in the day, or YouTube that had a tutorial on how to do anything basically. And so I think now you're finding people who are less afraid to start a business because they can get a little bit more of the resources that they didn't have back in the days. Because that's the thing, is ultimately even trying to get a job somewhere, most employers, their mentality is, and a lot of people don't get this, how can you make us money? Like, if you're coming to my studio and you want a job there, how are you going to make me money? I'm not just going to make money and pay you. Like, how do you make the company money? Now, in a bigger company, they're making money, you come in and you take over a role that is already bringing in. But small businesses want to know, if I'm hiring you, how are we going to get paid out of this too? And I think that's the mentality people are afraid of, is people are afraid of sales. If you're a good salesman, own your own business. Just saying.
And I feel like to close this section up, I feel like a best practice then is for like the academic situations or institutions, the educational programs, to provide experiential education, because that's exactly what it is, experiential opportunities for the students to, as they go through and they're learning about the music industry, they learn what they do and what they don't want to tackle.
And that's incredibly important. There's like 2 minutes left, so yeah, go ahead. Question. Yeah, I guess use them. Why not?
Okay, so my question is mainly for Jason, because you own your own studio, but feel free to chime in. I just accepted an internship at a recording studio. And a lot of the responsibilities will be to clean and whatnot. But I'll be the only music business student there. All the other students are like recording art students. So my question is, what would you look for in a music business student as an intern to like that would impress you, and some of the challenges your studio may face that I could help with the studio?
Absolutely, that's a great question, and I have a specific answer for you, because Melanie, who's back here, same thing I told her. I said, well, why did you do this? What did you want to learn there, right? So, okay, how about if I told you then, as an intern, I'll give you the opportunity to develop a program that you can implement at my studio, that even if I let you just keep some of the money or all of the money at first, you try. So, for example, I told her, I'm starting to work with some artists. I'm like, one of the things that we lack is booking. A lot of that's all. Not like he was saying, it's not easy to go get the money at the end of the day. So I said, well, if we're going to develop artists and we want to get those artists out somewhere, they're going to have to perform live. So your job is to develop relationships and contacts, do your research, because asking you want to ask me for help, I need this, I need that, but I want you to go do the work. But what I'll do is provide you the facility, if we have artists that are coming in, I'm going to introduce you to this artist. They're recording here. They're going to be under our artist development that we're working on. But what we're missing is we need somebody to find out where they can perform. So that's your job. If you make that happen, now you have created what you want to do for a living, and it's also helping me make money because I'm owning a business. I have the overhead, but it's also creating a job for you in that company, right? Because if you can do that without me, then that's fine. But you don't have the resources, especially as a new student, that our company would have, the connects that we already have. I might be able to connect you with somebody, and then you develop that. So with that studio, I would ask that person, what kind of things are you wanting to grow here? And then, these guys made a great point too. Just want to say this real quick. It's easy to come up with ideas, but it's hard to deploy those ideas, and that is everything. It's not that I couldn't figure out how to go do the booking, but I would rather have somebody that's coming in who's hungry, young, doesn't have anything to lose. Go out and get this and build this and make yourself part of it. That's what you guys got to do, is go out and make yourself part of what you want to be, whether it's working somewhere at Sony, at Spotify, or your own thing. You have to go out and make yourself valuable to get that. So I hope that helps you.
Thank you.
And to add to your show up early. Show up early.
Oh, okay.
I started as a second engineer, so I always had to get there an hour early. I don't know how many times I showed up. The gutter had overflowed, and I had to mop up the thing. The console was off. I had to reboot it, call the tech. The phone system was down. There's all these things that happen so that when the session downbeat starts, we're ready to go. Show up early, and it's amazing how many people don't realize that you have to show up. That's 99% of it. Show up on time or early. And there's nothing wrong with getting to a job an hour early, which is crazy in this environment. Everybody shows up 9:05, 9:10, 9:15 when it's 9 o'clock. You should be there at 8:30, be there at 8, and have the coffee ready. So that when you walk in, you go, here's your coffee. It's warm. That makes a huge impression that somebody really wants to be there.
Especially in Nashville, everything here runs on time. Can't be late for showcases.
If you show up with Starbucks, it's just those little things that you were intentional, you thought ahead and did that. So.
And guys, watch it. Keep your eyes out and your common sense when you're interning, right? Because there's a lot of places out there, that will have you cleaning and getting stuff, and that is definitely something that I'm not big into doing that. I'm also not big into interns just because it's a scary thing. But if you're doing that 5 months deep and no one's offered you any advice or anything, jump ship. I interned for 1.5 years before I got hired. But I was hanging out with the owner of his house and having dinner, and I started letting me in on set. So just be really careful, because there are some ruthless people out there that just want to turn you over, we're done, we're on. So just keep an eye out for that. But you have to do it. You know what I mean? So.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right, well, actually, we're a couple minutes over, so we're going to have to cut it short, but I want to thank our panelists for a great discussion.
music business and entertainment business programs at Full Sail. She unexpectedly had emergency surgery. She's fine and at home mending and all as well, but that's why I am sitting on this panel. So, so thanks so much to her, and please keep her in your thoughts to wish her a speedy recovery. So thank you guys. And stay tuned. Next up is University Project Spotlight. Starts in